Well, it's great to be here today. A lot of faces that I see at the grocery store and some faces I haven't seen in a couple of years. So this is great. And actually, Susan reminded me that I was last here in 2015. I could have swore it was just a couple of years ago, but I was reminded that there was a global event. So that was my tardiness there. Again, Matt McCauley. I lead the regional prosperity team at the MEDC. Quentin, the president and CEO of the MEDC, sends his regrets that he was unable to attend today. But always, I can tell you, I can assure all of you that he loves this community, loves Northwest Michigan, sees it as a jewel not only of Michigan, but as the Midwest, sees it as really a prime area of opportunity and potential. And I think everyone in this room knows this. For those of you not familiar with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, we are a public-private entity that serves the economic development needs of the state of Michigan. Our very high-level strategic plan, first and foremost, we are provided the opportunity to attract, retain, and grow business within the state of Michigan. That is all types of businesses, whether we're talking about the big three automakers or the small mom and pop business that's on Front Street or in Beulah or so on and so forth. That is our primary, one of our primary goals. The other one, support and grow talent. As we look to Michigan, as we look to regions like this, where can we identify and best leverage people as the means for economic opportunity and prosperity? More and more, we are being driven by a knowledge economy within this state, within this country, and globally. There is an interesting thing that has happened in recent years also when we think about the mobility of talent, and that you're able to work remotely and live in places that you desire. So this happens to be an area where Northwest Michigan certainly competes. Develop attractive places. Part of the role and this makes the MEDC somewhat unique compared to other statewide economic development agencies across the country is that we put community development front and center in our operations, that we believe very strongly that there's a symbiotic relationship between business, talent, and community, and we are not able to grow economic opportunity within the state without that relationship between those three. Also, we look at accelerating high-tech innovation. I was reminded the other day by a colleague how much technology drives all of the economy right now. But even if we were to think about what Michigan is known for most, when we talk about mobility, that it was only 30 years ago that your vehicle was 75% mechanical and 25% electronics technology base. That is flipped in 3 decades, that the vast majority of new vehicles now are high-tech, requires a very high degree of technology standards, chips, so on and so forth. So for us to continue our leadership role globally with regards to mobility, we must be able to innovate within that high-tech industry. And then market the state. My good friend Trevor Tkach is here, certainly a leader in this regard across the state and across the region and country. But the MEDC's role, we have dollars that are dedicated to the Pure Michigan campaign and other campaigns that really look to Michigan as the place to visit within the Midwest and the country. And then I also mentioned support small business. I think that I want to spend some time on this in particular because when we think about economic development in the state, when we think about the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, oftentimes the top of the fold on the paper or the leading news story is about these larger scale projects that are going on across the state. They're absolutely happening. We're glad that they're happening. They're going to continue to happen. But the vast majority of the work, just like as is the case with the economy, the vast majority of the activity, the economic activity within this state, within this nation, is within the small business purview. We have a variety of different programs and initiatives that support small businesses. Even when we talk about small manufacturers, Rob's here today with Michigan Works, Industry 4.0, for example, working with smaller manufacturers across the region, across the state, on how they can better tool up and create system designs to address the new industrial revolution, the Industry 4.0. So this is a chart that's just going over our focus industries. I think what's interesting here and what I would draw attention to is that as a statewide agency, we have to think about Michigan as a whole. We have to think about Michigan as a singular, but in order to be successful, we also have to think about it as an aggregate. That Michigan is not a monolith. Michigan is a sum of its places, a sum of its many regions. Many of those places have things in common, and some don't. And part of our job, part of my role at the MEDC is to bring better clarity to MEDC operations around what do we have in common in terms of industries across the state. So, for example, when we think about mobility, that every single region within the state, as you might imagine, because we are the state that put the world on wheels, has a network of businesses, both big and small, that support the mobility industry, automotive manufacturing for the entire state of Michigan. I mentioned some of that is in the traditional sense, that when we think about the big three automakers in southeast Michigan and the manufacturing plants, but also more and more on that technology end, or when we think about injection molding, fabrics, things like that, that are all part of that supply chain. The other thing that continues to grow for this state, life sciences, medical devices. This is an area that's a growth opportunity for a variety of reasons. That it's a growing industry in large part because of our demographics, and I'll mention that in a little bit, but also because of that technology intersection, that a lot of the innovation, the technology that we use within other sectors are also applicable within the life sciences. So to be able to have that cross-pollination is extremely important. And then when we look at the regional industries, and there's a couple of these that certainly apply to this community, look at things like agribusiness, financial services, certainly tourism within this region, and logistics. More and more, we are seeing that Michigan is acting as an international hub, specifically with increased trade with Canada. So whether we're looking at this region or other regions as the intersection between, or for trade between Canada and the United States, that's an important factor too. So three general buckets, if you will, of our operations: small business support, community development, and business development. I mentioned these in a macro sense previously, but just to go through some of the programming within this, within the small business, I already talked about Industry 4.0. We have the SSBCI, which is a large-scale funding program for small businesses. The Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, we're a primary funder for that, which provides technical resources to small businesses. We also have, within the community development, a new program called Revitalization and Placemaking. This is providing dollars to communities all across the state for purposes of redeveloping underutilized, underused, even blighted properties. Same with the Community Revitalization Program. The Redevelopment Ready Communities Program is an interesting one. It's especially active in more rural areas, and what that does is we have technical services provided to communities that wish to grow. And just to do kind of a quick tangent on this one too, that economic development is a choice, and it's a choice that communities choose to do or not to do. And for those communities that want to have a growth mindset, that this is one program where we're able to come in, work with communities on things like master plans, zoning, policies and programs that better position that community for economic growth and opportunity. The public spaces, community places, that is a program that is really geared for smaller non-entitlement communities and creating those vibrant center squares and things like that are acting as catalysts for activity. And then the business development program, I bring attention to that one. This is really a key part of what we do. This is the business development side of the house, where if you are a company and you are looking to Michigan to expand, or if you are within Michigan already and looking to expand your workforce, to expand your economic footprint, that there are resources there to assist you with that. And then international trade services, this is a program we have where it's a globalized world. We have trade partners all across the country, all across the globe, and what can we do to build upon, expand upon those trade activities. So a lot has happened over the last few years, but this is a quick chart kind of showing where we have been in terms of our pipeline with regard to business development, community development opportunities. So showing 2019 to present, 2019 showing that primarily as a benchmark to pre-COVID. We see the dip with regards to COVID, but post-COVID, beginning in fiscal year 22, seeing a tremendous, and I know this is not news to anyone within this room, but tremendous influx of capital, both publicly driven and private sector driven within the state of Michigan and really across the nation. This is a truly unprecedented time for Michigan and our ability to recapture economic opportunity within the state. That you'll see here that in 22, 106,000 new jobs committed to the state. And that's really significant. When we think about Northwest Michigan, the total population for the 10 counties of Northwest Michigan is 300,000 people. So these are very real numbers here. And then when we look at the private investment of $100 billion, one of the things that Quentin says, the CEO of the MEDC, often is that in 2022, $1 trillion was essentially identified to be invested within this country, particularly when we look at the EV market and the chip market. Some of that has found a home, and that's reflected here, and some of that still hasn't found a home. And that's really part of our job, is to maximize Michigan's position in acquiring that capital for the purposes of economic opportunity and investment within the state of Michigan. So that's all a long-winded saying, or way of saying that next year I expect that bar on the right to be a little bit higher. This administration has laid out a new economic development framework that we take to heart, obviously, within our operations. It's called Make It in Michigan. And the governor this year on Mackinac Island in May talked about three things: people, places, and projects. And that there is a necessity to be able to be competitive in such a way where we're supporting all three of those things, not just one or two, but all three. So our responsibility in that is to be able to look at wages, for example, that if we're looking at projects that real and potential prospects coming to the state of Michigan, to be able to look at living wages, that we're looking for employers who are able to provide a wage that can support households all across the state. We're also looking to upskill our current workforce, our current talent pool in such a way where we are a top 10 state or even a leading state on that that post-secondary credential, that we want 60% of adults to have that credential by the year 2030. Because we are more and more of a knowledge economy, our ability to sustain economic development over the long term will really be tied to that metric alone. And then with regards to places, the governor put down the goal that to be a top 10 state for small business growth, to have better access to childcare as a means to attract and retain talent. And then we certainly know this in this community, how can we increase the access to affordable housing, workforce housing, attainable housing all across the state, that it is a significant problem within the Traverse City community that we all know, but I can tell you that there really is no region in the state that doesn't deal with a shortage of housing. And then lastly, certainly more important for rural areas wishing to compete both within the bounds of the state and also globally, that we have to be able to create a connected state, that we still have underserved communities or communities that have no access at all, and we have to be able to demonstrate broadband access as a means to economic development. So just some quick highlights with regards to some of the items within the state budget that support economic development activities. A lot in the news about SOAR Fund, mega sites, things of that sort. That is now transitioning to be called the Make It in Michigan Fund, likely. This is supporting those large-scale business attraction projects that have occurred in various parts of the state. I mentioned the BDP, CRP programs. That's within that $100 million of business attraction, community revitalization. The RAP, or Revitalization and Placemaking Program, that's $50 million. That actually began 2 years ago as part of ARPA and is now more enshrined, and I think will continue within the state of Michigan budget moving forward. Entrepreneurship and innovation, $15 million. The Michigan Defense Center, this is one I haven't spoken to yet, but for a variety of reasons, Michigan is well positioned as a defense and aerospace leader, both with our existing ties to military bases, existing military bases within the state, and because of our mobility position globally. So on an annual basis, we commit dollars specific to that industry as a means to build up the momentum that comes with that. Pure Michigan, I mentioned that. Special events and conventions. This is a little higher this year than it has been in years past. There's a couple of truly marquee events that are occurring or have occurred already in Michigan. The Detroit Grand Prix this year came back to the city, was on Belle Isle for a number of years, came back to the city. That was a very successful, very big event. Also coming up in a few months, I suppose, is the 2024 NFL Draft. That will be held in the city of Detroit. That is a very big deal and a very big win for Michigan. The publicity and secondary and tertiary effects of that event are extremely significant, and we're very, very happy to have that in Detroit. And then the Talent Action Team. This is a group of folks that are working with Michigan Works, K-12, the universities, on how we can better focus on and build upon our workforce to be the premier workforce within the United States. I want to just kind of give attention to two colleagues. Hillary Doe. Hillary was named the nation's very first Chief Growth Officer. This is an interesting position and one that I think last time I spoke here that I brought attention to. That the bottom line is that 20 years ago, in terms of median age, Michigan was 30th in the country. 30th in the country. Today, we are now the 10th oldest state in the country. And this has very real, very significant impact with regards to our ability to be economically competitive. And first and foremost is that our workforce is just getting older. And if we don't have the ability to attract and retain a younger workforce, we will not be able to sustain Michigan's economy long term. Michigan, another stat to put out there that I'm sure everyone is very familiar with, is that since the year 1970, we have lost a representative or two every 10 years since 1970. So the other reason why maintaining our population within the state is important is for us to maintain our representation within DC. So Hillary has brought together the Growing Michigan Together Council. This is a multi-sectoral approach to how can we maintain and build population, maintain and build workforce within the state of Michigan. And this is both through traditional and non-traditional ways. I'll also bring highlight to that bottom bullet that when we look at climate, that more and more we are seeing people and businesses, frankly, that are looking to Michigan because of we are less impacted by extreme weather events. It's very easy to be able to look a company in the eye or look a person in the eye and talk about, tell me more about insurance rates in Florida over the last 5 years. Tell me about that hurricane that struck the coast of South Carolina. Tell me about the forest fires in California, and so on down the line. That both capital and individuals are recognizing that, and as a result are looking to Michigan as a place where there is less opportunity for those types of extreme events and, frankly, cost. Justine Johnson was named our new Chief Mobility Officer. She is a tremendous person, and she comes from Los Angeles. She has a background in marine industry, a background in auto industry, really by land, air, and sea, if you will, that she is looking to Michigan and how can we better position Michigan, not only in the traditional auto sense, because that's what we're known for, but also how can we broaden our definition and look for cluster development within aerospace, within marine technologies, within even transit, that she is really working very, very hard with her team on making sure that our position as the mobility state is maintained. So this year, there's a shorter legislative period, as many of you know. These are the key priorities that we're working on and wish to continue or build upon in 2024. So when we look at transformational investments, that how can we make sure that these large-scale investments, these capital projects that are happening, happen in Michigan, because at the end of the day, it's a very significant competition out there. I just actually, before I got here, I got a call about that there's some individuals from another state economic development group that were in Bay City, talking to one of our companies and looking to see if they could move that company out. And I bring that out it's to say that other states want what we have. That there are oftentimes some conversations about Michigan isn't what it used to be, or Michigan has X problem or Y challenge. And we do. We absolutely do, and we'll continue to have challenges, headwinds in front of us. But we have an asset infrastructure, specifically within industry and mobility, that most other states would give their right arm for, to use a line, that we have what others want. And that continues, and where other states, particularly to the south of us, are looking to build a network, to build an industry framework, we have it on the ground in Michigan. And as a result, both industry and other states are looking to Michigan in how they might be able to replicate. And that goes to that closing fund. How can we make sure, because a lot of other states are putting significant dollars on the table to attract out those businesses, how can we ensure that we're competitive in that regard within the state of Michigan? Income tax capture withholding, that when we look at new job creation, how can we tie our incentives to that new job creation? Research and development, I mentioned that. How can we support greater innovation and research, whether that's at a chip manufacturer, a battery manufacturer, or when we look at life sciences and Pfizer, for example. And then the Renaissance Zone legislation, that essentially is providing another tool for communities to use, if they so choose, to revitalize places and downtowns all across Michigan. So just real quick, I know that there's probably some questions, and I promised Norm I would wrap it up. So Northwest Michigan, the headwinds, housing is a big one right now, and really it's a 1-2 punch. We've known for a number of years the price of housing is just an unsustainable trajectory, and that continues. And again, that's really a statewide, nationwide issue, but it is a little more succinct here. The second punch on that, and a lot of bankers I know in the room, that if you are a home buyer right now and you have the need to finance, you're looking at an 8% number, and that's very significant and has changed the affordability of housing even more significantly for this region and other regions. Talent attraction and retention. I mentioned that the demographic challenges of Michigan, that's more pronounced here within Northwest Michigan. That Michigan is an older state within the country, but Northwest Michigan is an older region within the state of Michigan. That we have, I'll pick on our good friends in Leelanau County, for example. The median age in Leelanau County right now is 56. They have businesses closing because they can't find workforce. Not because they can't find customers. That's not the issue. They can't find workforce. So we have to think about that. Site readiness, this is an area that we were resting on our laurels maybe a little too long. We have to be able to identify more spots all across the state that can provide the right infrastructure for some of these larger capital investments that we talked about previously. And then population growth, labor force participation. Michigan needs to increase its labor force participation. There's a variety of hypotheses as to why or how, but the bottom line is what can we do to better skill people and motivate people to be workers within the state of Michigan. So the governor's housing plan, more and more units are coming online every day across the state, including within this region. I was over Lafreniere, over in Gray Road. I mean, it's pretty remarkable the housing growth within this region across the state, but we are still woefully behind, tens of thousands of units behind, frankly. The You Can in Michigan campaign, again, looking at people, places, and projects all across the state, and how can we relate what Northwest Michigan wants to do to that campaign, I think will be very, very important. I was talking to Jason earlier with the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center. One of the things that I often think about with economic development is how, in a very general sense, it's about how do you leverage your strengths, how do you identify your niche to create and expand economic opportunity. And this is a great example of that for this community, in my view, that this is something that is not going on elsewhere in the state, very few places in the country and globally, but Traverse City is leaning in with regards to freshwater studies and innovation, and as a result, there will surely be economic opportunity that follows. Brownfield program flexibility, how are we able to look at sites and incentivize redevelopment of land, existing land or past use land, as opposed to looking at green spaces? I think that's something that generally people agree to and want to see in Northwest Lower Michigan. And then two somewhat related community development programming. There's, as with most rural areas, there's generally far more demand than supply with regards to community development, that we want to continue to see facade improvements in our downtowns. We want to see trails, we want to see water projects, sewer projects, broadband, so on and so forth, but the resources are often limited at a local level, so how can we expand upon state support so we can better improve our communities?